Yes, guys, welcome back to flatcapeurotalk. Again, doing a bit of a live stream with David here, talking kind of things maybe to take our minds, you might say, a bit off of Spurs as well, maybe to take away a bit of the nerves, coming up with Everton, because I would say, still maybe an opportunity for Spurs perhaps to get something up for grabs, but it's tough to, get the juices flowing in terms of the motivation. So might as well talk about some other things. And we're just going to be talking about basically our basically our best version or our best 11 in the world, the best players in every position in the world. Dave and I will be discussing, I would say, lots in common, definitely some ones that are maybe not so much in common, which would be good to maybe discuss, as well as I want everybody in the chat to be giving me theirs for each position as well. And we'll be taking a look at their 11s. Parmiguel Scaberto even, and D-Trex Kane sent me their 11s, ahead of time, which we'll maybe take a look at. But Dave, how you keeping, my man?
No, I'm absolutely buzzing. Absolutely buzzing. No Tottenham to ruin my weekend. United just lost points to Man City. I know Arsenal won today, but look, we'll catch them. I'm not worried about that. And a nice breakaway from Tottenham with our World 11. It'd be interesting to see who's better.
Yeah, I think exactly. Everybody as well, while everybody should also give me, their kind of, best player in whatever position we're discussing, do tell me, which one also won as well, maybe for each one. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. So far, we do have Miguel Scaberto in the building, of course, and he's saying Flat Cap Army, absolute legend. Big up Jacqueline Davide. He's saying as well. Matt C saying, sorry for joining late. Matt C, you're always on time, my man. You're always on time, if not early. I absolutely love it though, Matsy. Absolutely love it, Dave. If he was working for you, in the office or something like that, be the best employee there is. Shows up 5 minutes early. He's like, sorry, I'm late, boss. He's that kind of guy. But he says just tested positive for COVID today on a Friday as well. That's rough. That's rough, Matsy. And he's saying he's not feeling too well. From what I can tell you, Matsy, if it's maybe that new sort of variant, it's not supposed to be as rough, or it's not supposed to be as tough to recover from, I might say, at least from what I can hope in your case, my man. But Matsy, keeping you in my thoughts as well. Always in here, Dave, as well, Matsy. So I do hope you feel better.
Yeah, big up, Matsy. Hopefully you get better soon, my man.
Big up, Matsy. Krista Thompson as well is in here. And Parmiguel Scaberto leading by example, telling them Forza Matsy. Absolute legend. Absolute legend. But Dave, might as well just start getting into it. We're going to go 1 through 11, everybody. Just kind of discuss, each position, what's kind of the best in 11. I think kind of the logic, could also be here is, while maybe you could think, maybe that player is just out and out, maybe the best in the world, when you do kind of think of them as a whole team sometimes, Dave, you could also think about it that sort of way. Like maybe a certain player on his own might not be the best in the world, but maybe perhaps in a team like this would actually be a better choice. So I think we could also take that into consideration. I kind of want us to avoid, saying, oh, like he's won X amount of trophies, if that player is maybe perhaps, on the downside in their career, you might say. I think we should try to avoid that. I don't think you've done that with any of your selections, to be fair. But I feel like, we're just kind of breaking down what, maybe the logic is behind some of our selections. But anything maybe to say, Dave, before we get right into it? We're going to start with goalkeepers. Anything to say before?
Yeah, look, I wish I could have got some other players in there. But look, the players I picked for my team, there's a method to my madness.
The bench, I think, is going to be even also more funny, because I think you could talk about what players may be better to bring on, in a certain situation as well. But I'm looking forward to it. Might as well just get started, everybody. But we do have in goal, I've gone for Manuel Neuer. Dave has gone for Gianluigi Donnarumma. Dave, I'm going to let you go first on this one. Take it away. I mean, Donnarumma just won, the Euros. His an absolute medicine goal. If you've seen the photos of him for a penalty, the man is just an absolute giant. Why is it that already at this age, so young as well, he's already the best in the world, in your belief?
Best goalkeeper in world football right now. Look, I've been a big fan of this kid ever since he broke into Milan team, kept a close eye on him. But I tell you what, Jack, I was so impressed with him during the Euros. I mean, look, he's a big guy in them goals. He fills that goals, very, very easy. It's very hard to score against him. But, look, even if the game, even if we're talking finals and it goes to penalty shootouts, as we've seen against England, lad, the size of the lad in the goals. It's, if I think I remember saying something to you that Jack, that like if he dives the right way, he's saving it just because he's
Mm,
so big, you know.
makes it
And
look
that's
easy.
half the battle.
Makes it look easy with some of the saves. They're actually quite hard for most keepers, you would say, Dave.
No, he does. Look, for me, best shot stopper in the world, best penalty saver in the world, in my opinion. Maybe not as good with the feet as maybe Manuel Neuer is, but look, my goalkeeper's the best in world football right now, I reckon.
I guess yeah, you're making the logic that if some ridiculous shot, if you're asking for a worldie, if you're asking for somebody to be consistently just almost maybe like the Virgil van Dijk, you would say, behind goal, you might say it probably is kind of Donnarumma, just someone who's extremely intimidating, someone that really you would say is just an absolute giant that you wouldn't really think you could always bend something past. You're gonna have to maybe outthink him. You're gonna have to maybe outsmart him with maybe a finish. But I think it's a fair inclusion, Dave. But I,
Just
yeah,
quickly,
yeah,
just to
go ahead.
say what he adds to my team, right? The reason why I've gone for more of a shot stopper than a goalkeeper with the feet is because I don't need one. With my team, I have players that can play out all the way through. So, and defensively, I'm absolutely solid. So the only opportunities that teams are going to get against my team is either A, long shots, or B, set pieces. And this guy has every single one of them covered.
He would help with the set pieces. That is true, Dave. Really good point there. Really good point there. I've gone for Manuel Neuer, maybe because of a heavy degree of bias, I must say. But Dave, as I've said maybe plenty of times, I think he's often maybe when he retires, people remember. But I feel like he's been the trailblazer of what the modern keeper really is. We kind of look at what Manuel Neuer was doing, I guess, in my lifetime, practically like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. What he was doing was kind of practically alien, if not only unique, to him. I felt like at the time you could say maybe there were others in world football that were doing it in a similar way to him, but I think he was an absolute trailblazer for the Allisons, the Edersons, all the goalkeepers, even in your case, Bazunu, of Ireland. I think he was
Yeah.
like the role model practically for all of them. So in my sort of team, Dave, I need somebody that can be the sweeper keeper. I mean, the guy practically invented, the sweeper keeper position, to a degree, as well as, if somebody, let's say you're in a bit of a panic, Dave, you're getting pressed a bit, just pass it back to Manuel Neuer. I mean, the guy will practically almost mag the guy. He's so, calm and composed in possession. You even look at Bayern right now, Dave, if you've been looking at the results, they've been kind of slipping a lot. I mean, you could maybe take a look at maybe the fact that Manuel Neuer has, been hurt for actually quite a significant period of time. Manuel Bayern all of a sudden, look a lot more like kind of leaky in the back. You could say that, they have that sort of confidence with Neuer, behind them. I would have that confidence. I would feel like, any ball over the top, he's either going to clear away or he's going to be able to just play it right back to you. I think to a degree, maybe Donnarumma could be a better shot stopper. But in terms of like any sort of counterattack, Dave, in terms of like any sort of team trying to play long balls over the top or try to play through my defense, I'm thinking Manuel Neuer is the best in the world. And then also maybe just for the fans and, just for the tickets, a few kind of beautiful passes, maybe tossed in there as well, to be able to, maybe get them out of the seat.
No, look, fair shout. But I don't need a sweeper keeper. My guy doesn't even have to come off his line, lad, because he's so big. You're not putting it by him. Not putting it by him. Look, what Manuel Neuer has done for the game, especially in terms of goalkeeping, absolutely incredible. You have to remember he was coming up maybe off the back end of maybe of Buffon and Casillas being at the top of their game, and he really has kind of modernized goalkeeping. But if we're talking about the best in the world right now, it's Donnarumma.
I mean, you probably I love G Mart saying David plays FIFA 22 because this goalkeeper is a pain in the butt to get past. Maybe that's probably the most damning argument made today. If FIFA
Zulu is
22
my
makes them
goalkeeper
the
in
hardest
FIFA.
keeper, if FIFA 22 makes them the hardest keeper to get past, then they probably are the best in the world. But maybe my last little rebuttal, perhaps to David's great point there about Donnarumma with Neuer as well. I feel like, I've said before, maybe you don't want to bring in trophies and things like that. I'm not going to try to make that argument. But what I would say is that I've seen Manuel Neuer in plenty of games, maybe pull off more kind of like one-on-one, sort of spectacular sort of saves, Dave, than maybe Donnarumma has. I feel like Donnarumma, what you're kind of speaking of is like shot outside the box from like a De Bruyne or something like that. Donnarumma is going to meet that and, not look, phased by it at all. But you're thinking like a one-on-one situation, like an Mbappe even on goal. I honestly think like Neuer might be the best in the world, probably, to try to be able to. No one, you can't really try to touch it around him because he's still that quick, that he'll probably just steal it away from you. And then if you do try to dink him or something, he's usually pretty smart about it. And he usually can spread his legs kind of like, De Gea does. I think he has more of the leg saves than maybe Donnarumma does, than maybe. I feel like Donnarumma's just so big that he can just, whenever he falls down to his left or his right, he's just saving it, like you said. But if it involves like maybe a shot with the legs, you could say Neuer could be a bit better. And maybe the one-on-one saves, I would make the argument that maybe he's a bit better in case it comes down to that, with your team. So I think a good rebuttal. Most people have given you the title here on this one, Dave. So they've given it to Donnarumma. I think it makes sense. Donnarumma, I would say, by far the most imposing keeper in the world. If you're talking about, somebody who you want to have in your corner, maybe, in the ring, Dave, I would say Donnarumma certainly would also win the UFC battle of all goalkeepers as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Matt C saying Golini is a shout too. A lot of people, I'm just going to maybe try to find it back up here. He's also saying Joe Hart as well. Probably in terms of organizing the bingo and the cricket games, definitely the best keeper of all time, you could probably say. Bottom Duda saying Donnarumma, love it, Dave. G Mart saying David wins as well. So a lot of people have gone for Donnarumma on this one. So you might as well move forward. I think Dave's taking this one. Donnarumma completely makes sense. He's in, my second option, I would say. Honorable mentions. Center backs here, Dave. We've both gone for Virgil van Dijk. Maybe just to take a little bit of a shot at Liverpool fans before they, already kind of ooze over themselves. Could you maybe make the argument that since that injury hasn't been the same before we kind of praise him? Before we start praising him, could you say maybe he hasn't been the same since that injury? I feel like that is true.
Yeah, do you know what? Watching Liverpool this year, I do think that's true. But his positioning is still, up there with the world's best. And you very rarely see Van Dijk ever diving in. Very rarely even ever see him sprinting, to be honest with you. All them rumors out there about him, he doesn't even sprint during games. He doesn't sweat. He just smells so good. You know what I mean? And look, for me.
Quickly, Dave. Sorry, quickly. I actually forgot. Dietrich Kane, actually, he gave me his 11. He put Mendy in there as the best in the world.
Look, I can understand why. Don't get me wrong. I actually think Mendy is definitely up there. To me, he's not. I think if he's in my top 5, he goes 5th. But he's definitely not the best.
I don't think he really gets close to the best, but perhaps those saves he put on the other night, though, Dietrich, I could see what you're talking about. Made an absolutely crack save at one stage, and then as well. I don't know. I think he benefits from having a really good defense in front of him. Like I said, maybe going back to the whole Neuer argument again, maybe for me, Dave, it's not like Bayern really have like a watertight, sort of defense. Like they play a really high line. He has a lot of actions. He usually actually has a lot more to deal with than some of the best keepers in the world. And so I think that's what also kind of makes Neuer sometimes pretty spectacular, is he can deal with either nothing all game or he can deal with a lot, and he can be able to handle the pressure. Maybe compared to other keepers who just deal with like 1 or 2 really tough shots, maybe a game, you could say. Kind of to a degree, kind of like our Lloris, you might even say. But I don't know. I think, Mendy, I think, is probably making a case for himself, certainly every year, but maybe not yet. Maybe not yet. But yeah, I guess now we're going to Verge, Dave. Like you said, he's got the hair, the no sweat, can play the left-sided center back in a back 4. That's what I was kind of thinking for me as well. Can kind of play both quite easily. Super calm in possession. It's not like Harry Maguire where he's a fridge, the way he moves around. I feel like even after the injury, he still moves, quite, cleverly and, quite agile. I don't know, Dave. I think it's, still quite hands down, Virgil van Dijk. Even if he doesn't look like always maybe the best in the world, I think the way that people even try to dribble against him, Dave, they all pass it off. Like they all just don't even want to try to take him on. The only guy that I've seen this year absolutely wreck him, I would say, is actually Stefan Jovetic in the beginning of the season, actually in the preseasons. Yeah, Jovetic actually wrecked him, when he was coming back from injury. But Dave, I think
And
that's another reason for Van Dijk is no one even wants to take him on.
And single-handedly, Jack, he came in and improved Liverpool with Liverpool beforehand. Yes, they were scoring goals and stuff like that, but they were conceding goals at the other end. It was a huge problem. Now, obviously, the goalkeeper was another massive problem, but the centre backs wise, Liverpool weren't great. I always felt like, if you put pressure on them, you would get chances. But since Virgil van Dijk's come in, he has single-handedly transformed that. And for me, I think he offers absolutely everything. The great Paolo Maldini once said, if you find yourself sliding in or lunging in or even sprinting, you've already made a mistake defending. And for me, Virgil van Dijk must live by that, Jack. He must wake up and have it imprinted on his ceiling, because as soon as he sees that, his positioning is just world class. For me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I don't think we need to praise him much further, so might as well just take the other suggestions. First here, Dave. Matt C going with Koulibaly.
Don't rate him.
You don't rate him?
No, I think he's so overrated.
Fascinating. I actually think he gets stuck in, Dave. I've always liked Koulibaly. But interesting. There you are, Matt. So you do let me know. Do let me know what you think of Dave saying that Dyer is better. So, oh no. I mean, he is Van Dyer. My man. No arguments on this. Virgil van Dijk has to be one. Are you going with 3 at the back or 2? We're going with 2, I think, my man. We're going with 2. If you're making the best team in the world, I think you would probably play a 4 in the back. What do you think about it? I think you would want to just go full out, all attack, and you just have 2 center backs back there that could defend, an entire team, basically, kind of, players you're going for. 3 would be interesting, though. 3 in the back, maybe tactically, would be very interesting. Let's just making sure. Rudiger, he's tossing there, Dave. Does Rudiger get in there? Maybe right now you could say current form. Rudiger is somebody everybody would want in their team, I would say. Better in a back 3, though. I think if you're doing that back 3, you would want Rudiger.
He can only play in the back 3. You put him in the back 2, it'd be a headless chicken. He wouldn't look nowhere near as good. The reason why people praise him, especially this season, is for his ball playing ability and coming out of the defense with the ball. You put him in the back 2, he can't do that.
Yeah. Definitely. But let's move on. I think people are getting anxious for the next one. We both agreed on the next one as well, everybody. And again, everybody, while people are tuning in, we're doing the best players in the world right now in this moment in time, not really even like considering careers and anything. Like if you were building a team that basically, right, Dave, would just go undefeated for season after season right now, and a team that would get like 80% of the ball, wouldn't even lose it, would just be indestructible, I think is what we're trying to build. Not a team on reputation, more a team on like actual skill level and maybe, what we're trying to build here.
Yeah.
So Marquinhos, we both agreed with here. Dtrex Kane seems to definitely think so as well. I think if I'm just making sure with Parma Gilberto, he went with Van Dijk and Marquinhos as well. Dtrex Kane went with Van Dijk and Marquinhos. It seems like a lot of people feel like it's Van Dijk and Marquinhos. Some people think Ruben Dias, Dave, maybe just before we praise Marquinhos here. Ruben Dias, does he get in there, or is it kind of a bit easy for you? I feel like it was a bit easy for me. Marquinhos, I think, is unbelievable.
Diaz came to mind, but when I was thinking Virgil van Dijk, Marquinhos, it kind of made my decision. Look, don't get me wrong. I actually think Diaz is a good player. I think Diaz is a good player, but Marquinhos has done it for a lot longer. And I love everything about this guy. Heart, passion, desire, love for defending, right place, right time. Even from set pieces up the other end, he often pops up, meeting it with the head. For me, I think this guy has it all. And with Virgil van Dijk and Marquinhos as your centre backs, you're not giving up an awful lot.
Do you feel like with Marquinhos, he's almost like the son of like Thiago Silva? Because at one stage they were playing together, over at PSG. Do you think maybe the reason Marquinhos is so good now is because maybe he was learning from Thiago Silva for a long stage of time?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, how can you not learn off Thiago Silva? Look, Thiago Silva would have helped him out positionally, constantly talking to him in games, positionally wise, where he wants them and stuff like that. He would have learned, a lot about leadership. He would have learned a lot about mentality. What it takes to be a winner. So he definitely gained off that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like what you were saying is like this sort of combination just sounds like the best on paper, maybe than any other center back you really think about in the world. Van Dijk, Dave, he gives you that height, that presence, that strength. that composure. Marquinhos, though, as well, like, of course, ridiculous composure, but probably can carry the ball, maybe kind of like Matip does for Liverpool, but clearly probably a bit better. Can carry the ball really well. Of course, gets stuck in, really smart, like, defender as well. Like, I think that's what makes Marquinhos kind of brilliant, is that kind of just outthinks, I feel like, the attacker. And then as well, from what I've seen, Dave, is when PSG have even lost a lot of games, it's kind of Marquinhos I've seen, like, kind of be always the shining light in even
Yeah,
bad
always.
performances for PSG. And oftentimes I've even seen him pop up with a goal that's won them, the tie as well.
Yeah.
So he can even get a goal. So I think a lot of people don't even realize that with Marquinhos.
You're,
As
you're,
I
you're
feel like
talking about
randomly I've
a
seen him
guy.
score a lot in the Champions League.
I was just going to say that, Jack. He does. Like, you're talking about a guy that when the big occasion turns up, he's turning up. You don't
Yeah.
even have to worry about it. He's one of them. He's a safe pick, just like Virgil van Dijk. Put them out there. They're not going to be affected by the occasion. And if you're looking for someone, maybe when the occasion is going against you, and you're looking for someone to step up, no better man. I've seen
Yeah.
it time and time again in Champions League. And like you said, Jack, even if PSG haven't had the greatest performance, or they've been knocked out, one guy he can never ever fault for his passion, desire, and trying all the way to the end, and has always come out looking like one of the best players. It's this guy.
No, absolutely. And I think, I think we can go to the comments here then, and what everybody's thinking. A lot of people, Dtrex Kane saying people might say I'm stupid, but for Diaz, he's thinking Diaz is so overrated and not world class.
I can see
Here's
maybe
what's
where
funny.
Dtrex.
At first, Dave, he was getting a lot of hype. I get a lot of hype. All of a sudden, everybody was saying Man City's defense is fixed. You could probably say it kind of is. Like, it has been kind of fixed, Man City's defense. But they didn't win that Champions League, inevitably. And so he
Diaz can
didn't
be got
exactly
at,
win
though.
the Champions League like they thought he would for them.
Like, look, the difference between maybe a Liverpool winning the Champions League and a City winning the Champions League, Diaz can be got at. There will always be room in behind Diaz, and can he defend it as well? And I can see what Dtrex is saying. Whereas you look at maybe a Virgil van Dijk, he gives you nothing. If he's on you, he gives you nothing. Same as Marquinhos. Ruben Diaz, he will give you something during 90 minutes, and that's the difference.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I do think that's an interesting take. And I'm like that you're brave with it, D-Trex. I like that you're brave with it. But he's gone for the same one as us, Dave, in terms of the center back combination. G-Mart was saying Jules Koundé is someone to watch. I think Jules Koundé is going to be one of the best center backs in the world in the future, especially like at least in possession. I think he might be already perhaps one of the best in the world. Like, the guy plays like a center mid, in possession. He's that ridiculous, and can also deputize as a right back when needed and actually put in a good ball in, can actually be clever in possession. I would say maybe someone he's kind of similar is kind of like Benjamin Pavard to a degree. It's just players that are just, like center backs that are just ridiculously almost too good in possession, kind of center backs, I would say. As well as even going forward, because we've seen Pavard, hit bangers as well. But G-Mart, I see what you're saying. Maybe in 5 years' time, Koundé may be one of the best in the world. I definitely see that. Delict saying, or Matt C saying, in 2 years, I think Delict will be top, Dave.
No, look, this is a kid I really like. Really, really like him. No, I was raging Tottenham didn't go for him. To be honest with you, I thought he was outstanding for Ajax. He's been good for Juve. Maybe look, for me, I still think he's maybe getting used to adapting out there, adjusting to being at a big club and not being the main star in the team. But another year or two, this guy really will come to the fore, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Catman Jess saying Marquinhos is better now, but I think Diaz will be at the top for a lot longer going forward. He's only 24 years old, Diaz. So I do see, he does have time on his side. He does have time on his side to prove us wrong. Zoe is in the house. Good to see you, Zoe, as always. But we do move on, I think. We do move on. Van Dijk and Marquinhos, for people that are tuning in so far, Van Dijk and Marquinhos is our back line. And then Dave has gone for Donnarumma, and I've gone for Neuer. Moving on to left back, another, one in common, Dave, Alphonso Davies. It seems maybe the real conversation, Dave, is it even really a contest? Could you even really think of, somebody that you would rather have in your team? I think if you're thinking as well of like Alphonso Davies, maybe if you were have like a team like Newcastle or something like that, you might maybe not want Alphonso Davies. But I don't know. Maybe you could make that sort of argument. But if you have the best team in the world, You would want Alphonso Davies, I think, in your team, no matter what.
Oh, 100%. Look, Robertson for me is another one that I was thinking about putting in there. But look, this guy edges it. I mean, the speed of this guy is absolutely unbelievable. He is
And
a
Techers as well.
rocket. Yeah, and he can do it all at high speed as well. Control the ball, run with the ball. A skilled player. He makes things happen. And for me, I really like this guy. It was Bayern Munich that bet PSG in the Champions League final, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This he played, didn't he? I thought he had it.
Yeah.
I thought he had it. I thought he was Bayern's one of Bayern's best players on the pitch. To be honest with you, one of the most creative players. And
do you know what I think a better game,
he's
by
unplayable.
example, is, Dave? Remember that same season when they played Chelsea? And they played Chelsea in like the first round or like the round of 16 or something like that.
Mm,
They got matched with Chelsea, and it was Lampard's Chelsea. And this was when Reece James was first coming onto the scene, and
yeah,
everybody was oohing and ahhing over Reece James. And they did kind of a defensive sort of formation, and they went for like kind of Reece James as sort of kind of like a right wing that would kind of track back. And I remember Alphonso Davies absolutely wrecked him like all
yeah.
game, just kept touching it past him, just kept 1-2s with Kimmich, through him every single time. Just made Reece James an absolute passenger. Even at one stage, Reece James even was through and behind, caught up to him, got stuck in on him, played it then past him as well. That's the thing, is that Alphonso Davies will catch up to you, get stuck in on you, then play it off of you, and then just, run right past you right after while you're putting your heads in your hand, Dave. I would say
He's the ultimate left
Marcelo,
back.
he's like a combination of like Marcelo and I don't even know, like, who's had that much pace, that you can remember as a fullback. Like, he's like Usain Bolt with like Marcelo Techers, you would say, kind of player.
He's goals and assists from left back. And not only that, with my team, you'll understand why I have a certain somebody at right back as well. But with the centre backs I have, I can get my fullbacks to bomb forward, and he also have the best recovery pace in world football. So you will not catch me down either flank either. So for me, look, there's no contest. There's nobody better out there than this kid, and he's
Yeah.
only going to get better. It's
I think he's
scary.
like 21. It's like
Yeah,
21 or something, Dave. It's actually kind of ridiculously scary. Because you could even say, like, yes, of course, pace is a huge factor to his game, but like we said, like his intelligence in the final third, his cleverness of movement, his techers, his ability in tight areas, I think that will never go away. So you just think about it like he's just going to be good forever, sort of kind of player, honestly. As well, Dave, maybe last thing is that, for all the Canadians, he plays like up top or plays like as a number 10,
yeah.
practically for them. He's that good as well. They're not like, just putting him at left back and just expecting him to do everything. They just decide basically just to put him up top as well. I just think it's brilliant. Honestly. What a player. A lot of people saying no competition for Davies. Super Canadian, absolute super Canadian. I'd be jealous to have that guy on your team. Especially the Canadian team is looking a lot better now, to be honest, especially almost looking better than the USA team to a degree. But like kind of when you're a team that doesn't always not the real powerhouse, sort of, I guess to a degree, you're in your case as well, Dave, like Ireland, it would be awesome to have I feel like a player like
Yeah.
Davies on your team, even if you're not qualifying that year, let's say, it'd be fun, I would say, to have Davies on your team. I think it would just make, the games more exciting even.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have somebody that can just do something single handedly. You know what I mean? You can just give it to them,
Yeah.
knowing that they can produce something.
Absolutely. Catman Jess saying, have to agree with you guys on this one. The Canadian Roadrunner, he is actually Roadrunner to a degree. Davies for sure represents my country the best. I'd love to see that, Matt. Love to see Davies hand down the best left back. Right back, the people are saying going to be interesting. Seems like they're getting anxious, Dave. So we might as well move on to right back here. People, this one is fascinating. People are saying Hakimi, easy. Some people are saying, Joao Cancelo, I think is what they were saying for left back. I've gone for Joao Cancelo at right back because I just think Joao Cancelo personally is one of the best players in the world. Just in general. Like, I just think he makes the World 11 just on football ability alone. I think the guy is ridiculous. I think even this season, just to look it up, I think it's something like 7 or 8 assists so far this season. Last season, he had a ridiculous amount of goal contributions. The guy can do it as an inverted left back. I would say most people kind of hate even Dave that have inverted left back, but he makes the inverted left back, look good, or make sense. He's that good. I think he could probably even play for Spurs as like a number 10. To be honest, we could buy him as like a number 10. He's that good. He can almost be the replacement. We talked about replacing Christian Eriksen, Dave. I'm not even kidding. Like, Joao Cancelo could like replace Christian Eriksen from left back, or something for us. I think he's that creative and that good. On the ball, one of the best in the world. I always didn't really rate him that great defensively. I never thought he was poor defensively, but this season, Dave, he's actually really stepped it up. Actually has some of the most defensive kind of contributions, I think, in the entire Man City team this season. I'm not really sure why that is. And as well as actually, making a lot of defensive contributions more than he usually does. So perhaps he's getting stuck in maybe more than we're used to as well. Can play practically anywhere on the pitch. Just footballing ability alone, I think, is actually unbelievable. And I kind of always had a soft spot for him ever since I saw him, even at his days at Valencia, Dave. I saw him, at one stage at Valencia. I thought he was ridiculous. Saw him at Juve. Thought he was ridiculous. I've seen him score outside the boot, sort of bangers from 30 yards, kind of player. He's that stupid sometimes. I actually think he's better than Trent, just because, even though I think Trent is unbelievable, the reason I think he's better than Trent, Dave, is because I think actually at the end of the season, Joao Cancelo would get you more goals and assists than actually Trent would, in my belief. Because I think the guy is that absurd in any sort of situation. Also can play left back, is what I was thinking, Dave. So you don't even really have to have a backup left back. Let's say Alphonso Davies gets hurt, put him at left back, then put in your backup right back in. I was thinking about that as well. I just think Joao Cancelo just makes my team. I just find him to be that absurdly good. And I know Para Miguel Escobedo also has a big soft spot for him as well. I know people are big Premier League fans, Dave, but for me, I just think Cancelo is just hands down the best in the world for me.
Do you know what? Look, for me, he didn't even enter my thoughts for the team, to be honest with you. Yeah. No, look, don't get me wrong. He is a baller and stuff like that, but it's only really, you could say, this season that he's really, really come to the fore. Whereas, look, you look at my man I have there at right back. I mean,
I would say he's the cheat code. He's the cheat code. I guess you're thinking about, Dave, your team would actually probably let in fewer goals than mine would with this inclusion. This inclusion probably means 10 fewer goals or something conceded, I would say.
It's just, look, if Kyle Walker lost the ball, Kyle Walker will go and clean it up. If Cancelo lost the ball, you're looking at one of my centre-backs having to come across to clean it up. And I don't want that. So for me, I definitely pick Kyle Walker. Look, I was thinking Trent Alexander-Arnold, Hakimi, he's very good. He's rapid. I like him. He's just not there yet. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, look, I get what you're saying with Cancelo. He might get you more goals, maybe a couple more assists. But Trent Alexander-Arnold, he offers more than that. He offers, like with Liverpool, for him, it's about the switches of play, the passing, and stuff like that. But
you don't think Cancelo could do those switches of play as well? Maybe just Pep isn't telling him to.
He doesn't need to, though. He doesn't need to. There's players in the team, that do all that for him. Whereas Trent Alexander-Arnold in the Liverpool team it's clear to see that he's asked to do some of that in the build-up play and all. But look, for me, Kyle Walker's the best out of all of them in terms of defensive-wise. Very rarely gets caught out, nowhere near as much as maybe Cancelo or Trent would. And in terms of recovery pace, quicker than the whole lot of them.
Yeah.
In terms of aerial ability, better than all of them as well. For me, the all-round defender, look, maybe not as good going forward as Cancelo, but I don't need him to, because I have people further up the pitch that they don't. All they need is Kyle Walker just to overlap. That's all.
Dave, I was looking at this right now, and I think this is what it comes down to, right? So Cancelo so far this season has created he's created 11 goals so far this season, Dave. In just all competitions, including the Champions League and Premier League. You kind of think about it, right? Cancelo adds you 11 goals. Kyle Walker takes away 11 goals. Like 11 goals that might go in, probably don't go in. because you have
Yeah.
Kyle Walker in your team. So I think you kind of look at it sort of both ways. And to be fair, if you already have Alphonso Davies on your team, do you really need like Joao Cancelo? I've thought about it this way, sort of, Dave. Like, if you just have both of them like on either flank, like that would just be like I would just give up. Just hopefully you just try to catch them on the break, because you just know these sort of players can both, take shots from distance. They can also just take on their man and be able to do things like a winger can. Kyle Walker definitely can't, but like I said, Dave, Kyle Walker is the cheat code. He is the cheat code often, and that's why I like to call him. But let's see what everybody else has to say on this one. I am looking forward to it. A lot of people, he's saying Cancelo is clear, but he was saying, I think for left back, maybe D-Trex was, and we'll check on his inclusion later. But people are saying right back is going to be interesting. Hakimi for me, says Carl Simpson. Dave, thoughts on Hakimi? Well, maybe, a lot of people I think are going to put in that one. The bottom dude also saying, no, Hakimi, you broke my heart. I mean, what are your thoughts on Hakimi? Maybe, 2-3 years probably could be the best in the world. What are your thoughts? I just look at goal contributions, and I just looked at goal contributions, everybody, and I was just thinking, as much as I love Hakimi, Trent and Joao Cancelo, they do just outdo him on that at the end of the day. Because you also look at free kicks. Both of those guys take free kicks too. Yeah, that's my thought. Is Hakimi is unbelievable, but maybe doesn't contribute as many goals, you could say.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Hakimi. Even when he broke through at Real Madrid, when he first came into the team, he had a couple of good games for him that I saw. Look, for me, I really like Hakimi. Look, unbelievable pace, decent enough going forward. But for me, again, he's another player. I think maybe another year or two, you probably really see him come to the top of his game. But right now, I do believe he is behind a Kyle Walker, a Cancelo, a Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, don't get me wrong, he's not much behind. But I think the difference between, I would say, him and the likes of some of these, the likes of a Walker, the likes of, you look at Walker for City, how many trophies has accumulated? Look at Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's come in. He's won a Premier League, Champions League. Hakimi. I know he's won the Serie A title with Inter and stuff like that. But for me, I just don't think he's at that level yet. To me,
3 years. What do you say? 3 years
in terms of output, as the players that I've mentioned, and maybe that little bit above him.
3-4 years. Would you say he could be the best?
He'd probably be the best in 2 or 3 years, I reckon. If even probably 2 years, I reckon.
There you go, the bottom dude. So when we do the show next year, my man, we'll do the show next year. Maybe he'll be the best one next time around. Big up to bottom dude. Carl Simpson. This is where maybe my bias, Carl Simpson, I completely agree with this, but this is maybe where my bias then comes in. Perhaps why I included him is because I do always like players like that, Dave, that are just that ridiculously good that they can just kind of just play anywhere, sort of players. And I think Joao Cancelo is sort of that kind of guy.
He was a left back at Valencia, though, right?
No, he's a right back. Right. I think he was a right mid, actually. I think he was like a right mid, and right back. And then, because what he used to be doing with Juventus and Valencia, Dave, is that he used to do all those outside the foot like shots that were absolutely ridiculous, back there. And now you see him over on the left-hand side cutting in and, having kind of curlers. And I don't know. I just think he's ridiculous, especially for goal scoring. I think he is ridiculous. Trent, I think, is an easy shout. I think you could, especially if you're a Liverpool fan, I think they would make a very passionate argument, about it as well. But Parma Goalkeeper saying Cancelo is a baller. David Wins should never have sold him. With Kyle Walker. Yeah, the way we wasted that all on Davinson Sanchez, G-Mart. I don't want to let that sink in, but don't let it sink in. Just don't let it sink in. But we wasted it all on Sanchez. Carl Simpson says, I'm still very biased towards Walker, though. We take him back in a second. Yeah, like I said, it keeps 11 goals, 10 goals out of the net. Big fan of Hakimi. Oh, my God, Hakimi is the king of Sahara, my countryman. Big up, D-Trex. Big up, my man. Big up, D-Trex. Catman Jess says, also wanted to go to after yesterday's vid. Yeah, Dave, the Wilfred Singo vid. You should check it out. Wilfred Singo, this guy that Spurs are kind of interested in. He's the 6'3" right wing back for Torino, Dave. He's absolutely rapid, carries the ball really well, and he's like the height of like Meunier, but he's like the pace of like Lamptey. It's actually kind of crazy. we'll see. A lot of Premier League clubs are looking at him. After yesterday's vid, I kind of made that joke. Who knows? He has all the characteristics of the best wing back in the world. But we will move on to the midfield here. Dave, a bit different, midfielders, I must say. I think you've kind of have gone for, I would say, just kind of a 4-3-3 with just 3 flat midfielders, maybe with Kevin De Bruyne a bit ahead of them. I kind of have gone for
a 4-2-3-1.
4-2-3-1. You've gone for a 4-2-3-1. I kind of see that. I do see that now. I've kind of gone for a bit of a 4-3-3 with Savic and kind of De Bruyne as kind of the bombing sort of wingers. And then, Conte is there to clean everything up, especially if I want to press up high. Conte can then join them. And then you just have the center backs and everything to clean everything up. But you take it away first, Dave, because I've been talking for a while.
Yeah, look, for me, De Bruyne, he'll go straight into that cam role. I think he'd be absolutely perfect there. He's got the goals, the assists, the passing ability. So for me, he's one of the world's best midfielder, if not the world's best midfielder. So that's a no-brainer. Look,
just quickly, Dave, no Verratti. That's criminal. Maybe just because it is one of the big ones that maybe is missing, and I'm not even sure if he's in our bench. What are your thoughts on Verratti, Dave?
Yeah, look, I like Verratti. I like Verratti, but for me, he doesn't play enough. He's always out with injuries and stuff like that. Always. So for me, that's probably what lets him down. But he wouldn't get into my midfield because, look, with De Bruyne, he's a big guy. He's got strength. He's got power as well. And then my 2 holding midfielders, one is Luka Modric. He just takes the ball off the defenders, does what he's been doing for years. The only midfielder over the last 10 years to win a Ballon d'Or. So that speaks for itself. And the longevity this guy has had in his career, Champions Leagues, he's won titles, he's won. So for me, no better ball retention player than Luka Modric in the business. And then look, I just put Leon Goretzka in there beside him just for a bit of strength, power, brawn, muscle, and to win me the ball back. But Leon Goretzka can also play a little as well. So for me, look, I've got everything in that midfield. I've got ball retention. I've got creativity, long shots. I've got a ball winner. I've got absolutely everything in that midfield. There's no better midfield than that.
Just by the way, Dave, I wanted to say I think Hakimi won that last one. So I don't think either of us won that one because Dtrex Kane went with Hakimi. I think as well as Parma Miguel Escobardo went with Hakimi. We've seen Tabata Duda go with Hakimi. I think we both lost on that one, I guess, Dave. But with the midfield, Dave, I mean, to be honest as well, just to give you a bit more praise here on this inclusion, Dave, Goretzka gives you goals, I think, as well. This is what I kind of thought about. You probably want 2 midfielders that give you goals, maybe the best team in the world. You want 2 midfielders that give you goals. You've gone with maybe 3 here, I must be honest. But Goretzka, I think a lot of people don't realize he gives you that goal because he'll be, Dave, that guy that's actually making that run into the box where maybe De Bruyne and, Modric might kind of be camped outside the 18 maybe a bit more.
Goretzka is so criminally underrated in world football. It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Yeah, look, he can get into the box, Jack, but not only that, the size of the guy, he's a threat from attacking set pieces as well, but also helps me with defensive set pieces. So for my team, all around, he's absolutely perfect. Like I said, I've got everything in that midfield. Absolutely everything.
Just quickly, so we get some other people in the house. Tottenham Tantrum Gold saying, big up, guys. Big up Tottenham Tantrum. It is nearly game day. He's saying he doesn't see Brozovic, Dave. He's very, very sad, says Kais.
Look, Brozovic is a good player.
The people's player, Dave, because he smokes, he drinks, he parties, and he's still a baller, and everything. He's kind of the people's player, but doesn't make this team.
He's what you'd call a good midfielder. But if you're talking about top midfielders, he doesn't get anywhere near the world's best 11.
I guess everybody's definition of world class, kind of varies, Dave, but would you say Brozovic is still world class, though?
I think he's a very good player, yeah, but he wouldn't get in any. I don't think I would say anybody. You ask any pundit, any player, if they put Brozovic into a world 11, wouldn't get anywhere near it.
Sorry to say that to you, Kais. It came from David's lips, not mine, but I do feel the same way. But David, put a bit David put it in the right way. But the bottom Duda saying Kevin De Bruyne, Conte, Nico Barella. Barella, I have, said plenty of times, Dave, for me, I would not be surprised if he makes somebody's World 11. I think at least Barella is world class and does, really, I think he at least makes the conversation already. Just and with how young he is as well, still, I think he makes the conversation for me, Dave, as one of the
Oh,
best
he definitely
midfielders in
make
the
the
world.
conversation. He definitely make the conversation. But again, he ain't getting it. Look,
Yeah,
he's not getting into the midfield.
same here.
He's not.
Same here.
He always just misses out. Maybe a couple of years down the line, you'd probably think of he probably would get in, but just now, no, not yet.
Yeah, makes the conversation. Yeah, makes the conversation. David saying Thiago in the holding role for me. Listen, Thiago, I thought that season recently when Bayern won the Champions League, I thought Thiago that season was like one of the best players in the world that season. He was absolutely absurd alongside Kimmich and Goretzka. That midfield was absurd. Kimmich, Goretzka, and Thiago was unbelievable, actually unstoppable. That midfield, to be honest. Ishan Khan as well. You will see Kimmich show up later, I do believe. But yeah, not in this one. But I will talk about maybe why I haven't gone with Kimmich. Carl Simpson saying De Bruyne 100% on another level today. Then I would go for Modric. Showing age is just a number, and also Barella as well. So a few Barella inclusions so far. But
See,
Modric,
you can't.
maybe last little point for you, Dave. Modric, the definition I would say of showing age is just a number. The definition of it. Better example than even Ibrahimovic, I would say. Better example than Ibra.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, look, the guy doesn't show age. But when you're that good on the ball and you're that good, you're that intelligent as a footballer as well. With age, you just learn to start picking up little pockets of space where you can receive the ball, get turned, and keep play taking over. That's exactly what he does. Look, I would love to have included the Barella in there, but you need a ball winner in that midfield. You can't just have three absolute ball players. You do have to have a ball winner in there to balance it out, or else your ball players don't shine. It's that simple.
Another hot take here from Dtrax Kane saying Kimmich is a fraud. Honestly, watch him play like Harry Winks, hides defensively, and he's so overrated. Yesterday proved my point. He did not look very good yesterday, but I think that more has to do with the system, my man. And then he's gone for Pedri is maybe in the conversation. I don't think Pedri makes the
He's like
conversation yet.
20.
Or 17 or 18. Yeah, I don't think he makes the conversation yet, my man. I really don't. But Dave, Kimmich overrated? Is he overrated maybe?
No way is he over. Kimmich is absolutely class. Look, he can score goals from outside the box. He takes over play. He gets stuck. And Kimmich does everything. Kimmich does absolutely everything.
I'm going to see who Dtrax went for. He went for Conte, De Bruyne, Verratti. Interesting. So he went for the Verratti inclusion. But I think that maybe just makes it so that I just have to move on to mine here. I've included N'Golo Kante. The reason being, Dave, is N'Golo Kante, I'm not exactly his biggest fan or anything like that. I don't always, I'm not always talking about N'Golo Kante, but I just kind of thought about this, Dave. Like, if my team is going to win every game, if my team's going to win every trophy from American Idol to the Champions League, N'Golo Kante has to be in that team because he proves that whatever team he's in, he wins. And he proves, whatever competition he plays in regularly, he wins. He's won a World Cup when he played regularly in that France squad. He won the Champions League with Chelsea now. He's clearly, he's won the league with Chelsea. He's won the league with Leicester City. I think the guy is just a born winner, Dave. He doesn't even act like a winner. He just wins. Just somehow he just makes everybody else better. I don't know what it is that N'Golo Kante, I think we all kind of know what it is that he does. He just breaks up play, carries the ball really well, leads counterattacks, is just a kind of a mosquito, in the room where he just is everywhere all at once. You can't ever track him. But for me, N'Golo Kante, it's not like he's the best ball playing center defensive mid, not like he's even the best ball carrying center mid or anything in the world. It's just all the things that N'Golo Kante does for some reason seems to make everybody else in the team, unbelievable, and seems to make everybody else ridiculously good. It's not to say that N'Golo Kante by no means is like a poor player or any means, but something he does every single game and in every single big competition seems to just make that team win. And that's why he made my team, basically, Dave, to be honest. And I think we all know, like what I said, he breaks up play unbelievably quick, ridiculous stamina, can carry the ball and all those sort of things. But that's the reason I've gone for him, is simply just because N'Golo Kante, at the end of the day, his track record shows that he wins.
Mm. No, look, with N'Golo Kante, to be fair, you are correct in what you're saying. Look, won the Premier League with Leicester, went in, went to Chelsea. They've now kicked on, won a Champions League. He's won the World Cup. And look, I'm not bad to say about the guy, but you know what it is, Jack? He does all the unselfish work.
Yeah.
You look at the teams he's played in, even that Leicester team, everyone else done all the fancy work. This guy just does all the mopping up, chasing people down. He does running for other people, and that's why, you know, that's why all the top teams came calling when he was ready to leave Leicester. That's why everyone was starting to look at him. That's why he still gets into that France squad despite the talent they have. And that's why he still gets into that Chelsea team despite the talent they have. Because every manager knows, in order for your ball players and your star men to shine, you need someone like an N'Golo Kante in the background making up for all their defensive duties, and that's exactly what the guy does.
Absolutely, Dave. I couldn't say it better myself. Going to move on then to my other inclusion here. We both agreed on KDB. Maybe before I move on to my other one, Dave, that nobody's really included, and I'm not surprised why. I kind of went for a controversial one there. But Dave, just maybe on KDB, best goalkeeper in the world, or sorry, best midfielder in the world when it comes to passing the ball. I would say the best striker of the ball. Like, nobody strikes a ball better than KDB, you could say, maybe, in the world.
No, nobody. Best passer, best. If I wanted a shot to fall to anybody outside of the box in world football, it'd be Kevin De Bruyne as well. So for me, look, he has it all. He
makes everybody's team
the world's best midfielder.
I think he makes everybody's team. It's kind of a shame. Maybe I agree with you, Dave. Modric, to a degree, the reason he's such a GOAT is because he was one of the only midfielders to ever win the most biased award in the world, which is the Ballon d'Or. And he still somehow was able to just make it that, unstoppable, that they just had to give it to him. To a degree, with N'Golo Kante, you could say as well, actually, with N'Golo Kante, making a huge breakthrough. Competing for a Ballon d'Or as well. I would say he came in the conversation, big time as well. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne, though, Dave, would you say he's deserving of a Ballon d'Or? I feel like at one stage, maybe he probably was, considering the years that Messi has won it, like this year, when Messi's won it, when he's done absolutely nothing, in comparison to the rest of, the world. Would you say maybe De Bruyne, maybe one of these years that he's been so brilliant, maybe could have been more in the conversation?
Yeah, probably deserves to be in the conversation, to be fair. I do think he's been robbed. I think he's
been robbed probably 1 year of a Ballon d'Or. I bet 1 year he was probably robbed, when I do think about it. But yeah, moving on, though, to Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Here's my thing, Dave. It's the same reason you included Goretzka. Somebody that can be that big man that's so also, you've gone for an extremely underrated player. And I think I've gone for an extremely underrated player as well, in Milinkovic-Savic. So to be honest, I'd actually be happy if either of us won these, because I'm actually loving that we've both gone for, maybe at least one or two players that maybe not everybody would include. And for me, Dave, with Milinkovic-Savic, I think so far this season, 8 goals and 8 assists. So far this season, the guy has been actually quite spectacular. He's really good in the air. And actually, I would say Goretzka, I must be honest, is also really good in the air. As well. Dave, I mean, if you've seen Milinkovic-Savic, you definitely know, unbelievable in tight areas for a big guy as well. Can hold up the ball, can be able to spray a pass, can be able to, touch a pass to guy, be able to pop up with a goal, from either a cross, or pop up with a goal from just, finishing it outside the box. Almost plays like a 6'3", kind of like number 10, but can easily play as like a box-to-box midfielder. I would say one of the best box-to-box midfielders in world football. I would say Goretzka is as well. And maybe that's why we both included these players as box-to-box players that can maybe help out, our defensive players, but also be able to, pop up with a goal. That's why I've gone for Milinkovic-Savic. I would pay 80 million for him, 90 million for him. I think he's almost close to worth 100 million. I can't wait for him to go somewhere. I think at Lazio, he's just weirdly I guess, taking his time there. and has just decided to just, be kind of under the radar, one of the best midfielders in the world that really no one talks about unless they've ever seen him play. And I think Milinkovic-Savic, for me, Dave, will bring the goals in the same way that Goretzka would. I actually really love Goretzka, so I don't even really want to make it much of like what maybe Milinkovic-Savic would do better, kind of competition, but maybe just to maybe something to, bounce off of you. I guess what we both gone for here is, like I said, box to box midfielders, but actually are goal scorers as well.
Yeah, look, your midfield has to have height, a ball winner, a technical player, and just people. And no matter whether you're the ball winner or the technical player, you both have to be able to handle the ball under pressure in tight situations. And look, you don't want any egos in midfield, and I think both midfields that we've picked, they don't really have that ego in it. And you just need good, honest players in the middle of the park, and I think that's what we picked.
No, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. And I must say as well, maybe again, just to show how much I do love Goretzka, I've seen Goretzka score a lot of clutch goals, like, kind of goals where like you're kind of just asking somebody just to put it in the net, to maybe, get away from a team or something like that. He does pop up with those. I'm just waiting for Milinkovic-Savic to play maybe on a better team in the world stage. And maybe then we get a better grasp of what sort of player he is, to be honest. So I actually could concede on the Goretzka thing. I just love Sergey, Dave, because I think my team needed an itch, and your team, got an itch in the case of Modric. My team needed an itch, somewhere, so I decided to go for the big Sergey, as well as Par Miguel Escobardo saying, Dave, El Sergente. They call him the sergeant over in Italy as well, Dave. The big man. He does look like a sergeant also as well. He does look like a big sergeant. I think he looks sick. I would love him. I would absolutely love him. And Bottom Duda, you're absolutely right. You would give me those goals from midfield as well as plenty others would, to be fair, as well as plenty other midfielders you could go for. Would you bring Foden or Mount into the conversation, Dave?
Look, Mount is nowhere near the conversation, right? And that's not even me being biased because he's Chelsea. He's nowhere near the conversation. Nowhere near it. Foden, look, he's a very, very good player. But again, he hasn't done as much in the game as De Bruyne. He's done nowhere near as much in the game as Modric. And when
They
I
would be
look at
competing for
midfield,
De Bruyne's position. They'd be competing for De Bruyne's position, basically.
be competing for De Bruyne's position, or probably won't be. But if you wanted to, Modric's position, they wouldn't get in ahead of both them. So for me, I wouldn't say they're in the conversation. No.
Yeah, I think that's tough. I think that's tough. And it's not to say that, again, this is why, Dave, maybe just to reiterate this is what makes the World 11 so tough, because you think about those are two ridiculous players, I must say, like Foden and Mount, two ridiculous players that are real threats, like to any team. But this is what makes the World 11 conversation. It's a very tight group, Dave. It's a very tight, it's a very tight club, you could say, this sort of team. But I think we've discussed the midfield. But it's tough to say maybe which ones. I think KDB gets in there. Conte I've seen come up from some people, but I wouldn't say like a ton. I don't know, Dave. It's tough to say who really won this one. I would say Barella is maybe the one that a lot of people I've seen some people go for. I'm just going to go to Par Miguel Escobardo's. Maybe he could help us decide.
If I took out Goretzka and put in Kante, which I was thinking of doing, would my midfield be better than yours then?
I think you lose some goals, but
I also lose a lot of height in there as well. You know what I mean? And stuff like
you lose
that.
the height. That was my logic. That was my logic with the Sergey. That was my logic with including Conte. It's tough, Dave. That's tough.
Would you
I think
say
it's kind of a
Modric is
stalemate.
better than Milinkovic-Savic?
I think two different players.
Mm.
It depends on if you want tempo setter player that just controls the ball, controls the game. Modric, of course. But if you have the other two players that I have right there, like being able to, like De Bruyne can be my tempo setter if need be, as well as, Conte actually is, I think, underrated maybe in some of his, ability to actually just move the ball, left and right. And then what Sergei can also do it as well, because Sergei plays as kind of a number 8 at times. So it's kind of all three for me can kind of be tempo setters. The reason I think it's tough to compare those two is like Sergei for me at the end of the season gets me at least 8 or 9 more goal contributions than probably Modric would do. So
What
that's
trophies does
tough.
he get you though? What trophies does he get you? Modric
That's
brings
what's
trophies.
tough. That's what's tough. And also you think about it, maybe Modric would more be that guy, Dave, that probably under the radar, like pass to the pass to the pass to the goal kind of guy, maybe more than, Sergey would be. It's tough. It's tough. I could concede that I would like Modric in my team. I just feel like I didn't really need Modric in my team. And I think that's what it kind of came down to. It's tough. I think it's a bit of a stalemate on this one. We'll see what maybe some people say. But a lot of people have gone for Verratti. So
Look, the guy's a very good player, a very, very good player, but he's too injury prone. He's too injury prone to be anywhere near this conversation and hasn't achieved nowhere near as much in the game as De Bruyne or as Modric. So there's no way he could get into my midfield. And like I said, I can't. If I was to take Goretzka out, I'd probably put in Kante, but then I lose some. But like the thing is, the reason why I can't take out Goretzka is because he's my steal,
he's your steal, he's your height, he's your, goals, he's your second goal scorer, you could probably say. The other thing though, too, Dave, is like what you said with Modric, like guarantees trophies, and I couldn't argue with that, but that was kind of my logic with Conte as well. It's like I have an actual born winner in there for some reason. Like he's not really like a winner, kind of actually in the same way as Modric. It's not like really Modric is like a huge like guy barking at players. He's just a leader by example. He's just,
Yeah.
ridiculous. He's like, glows, you could say, sort of player. So I think Conte's kind of the same way. So I wouldn't even change our midfield, Stave. I think this is kind of a stalemate.
Yeah, I think we're
To
going to
be
have
honest.
to. This will be a draw, I think.
I
They'll
think
have to
this is
send
going to be
this
a
one out
draw.
in FIFA.
Matt C saying, "I'm exactly, Dave. Yeah, exactly. That'll be fun. That'll be fun." Matt C saying, "I'm glad I haven't seen Jorginho in the conversation." Yeah, I mean, geez, that would be
Look again,
ridiculous.
another good player, but again, no one near the conversation.
Where did he finish third in the Ballon d'Or rank or like something like that? Something absurd. Just I don't know. Absurd. I don't know. Hot take, but I think Jorginho is overrated. He's good, but he is overrated. I think he's overrated. I think he's
Yeah,
a fantastic player, but he's extremely overrated. I think that
yeah.
is true. I think that is true. But moving on to the left wing. This one I think is going to be fun. This one's going to be fun. I wish Potomac were here so he could, put me on a big pedestal, for defending Sonny in this sort of way. But Dave, maybe this is tough because I think we're basing it, on the striker that maybe we've both included. Actually, let's just do this. I'm going to cheat a bit here, Dave, because we've gone for the same striker with Harry Kane. The reason I've gone for Harry Kane, Dave, is because you could make the argument for Haaland. You can make the argument for Lewandowski, but when you have a team like both of us have that are this good, teams that are this good, someone like Harry Kane only makes the team even better than I actually think someone like a Lewandowski would or Haaland would actually. I think Harry Kane plays people in behind, sprays passes, drops into the midfield, can finish with a header, can be a poacher, can just basically make the team even better than I think any other striker in world football. If you had the best team in the world, Harry Kane would make that best team in the world weirdly better than I think any other striker in world football. And maybe what I'm trying to say here is, Dave, maybe alone, like just player by itself, you could make the argument for Lewandowski or something like that, with all the attributes and all that stuff. And same thing with Haaland. You can make, the claim, maybe just by itself, on paper, that guy looks great. Same with Mbappe. You would say on paper, that guy looks great. But like, if you're building a world 11, like, and your striker up front makes that team better, I think it's Harry Kane, Dave. That's my argument.
It's his all-round game, Jack. Look, with Haaland, clinical finisher. You know what I mean? You put him in behind, strength, power, pace. I mean, he's got it all. You look at Lewandowski, again, clinical finisher. But Jack, if you're looking for a guy, that not only can he finish, but he can also take a step back and play my wingers in behind.
Yeah,
This is
that's
the
what I'm
guy.
thinking as well.
All-round game, Harry Kane is better than anyone else out there. And for me, that's why he's in this team. He can score from long range. He can score in the box, score headers. He can play other people in, and again, he can drop deep defensively. he gets stuck in as well. For me, the most complete forward in world football is Harry Kane. It's no brainer.
My logic as well here, Dave.
He's never not going to be in it.
Yeah, but I like how you said, playing in the wingers, Dave. And that's kind of what my logic is as well, with building this team is like he would just make the team weirdly stronger, I think, for that reason. And my thinking as well, Dave, is Haaland, Mbappe, Lewandowski in the striker position, Benzema, let's say, as well in the striker position. They just don't pop up with as many assists. They might score 40 goals in that team, but Harry Kane scores you 27 and gets you 25 assists. So he actually, at the end of the day, I think Harry Kane in this team would get you more goal contributions at the end of the day than the rest of the strikers in the world. Harry Kane gives you more goal contributions in this team than the rest of the world.
The way I thought of it, Jack, right, I was thinking, because Haaland was there, don't get me wrong. If I was a manager, what would be the difference for me? If I had the option of signing two of them, what would the difference be? And the difference is, and the way I thought about it, is if things weren't going to plan, right, and, you were being marked out of the game or whatever else, who has more ability to be able to change that game and affect the game in a different way than what what you would usually ask of them? And that's Harry Kane. And that's why he got into my team above anybody else.
Interesting. I mean, there you are, everybody. I think, that's the logic is, just makes the rest of the team better. Now we go on to left wing with, I think now we can argue, for left wing, now that we've spoken about Harry Kane. I've gone for Sonny here, Dave. The reason I've gone for Sonny, and if you don't mind me going first, is because Mbappe for me, Dave, unbelievable player, but I actually think he is better as a striker than he is as a left winger. He's still an unbelievable left winger, still one of the best in the world at left wing, but I do think he's better as a striker or playing as like a second striker or something than he is as a left winger, because as a left winger, he doesn't really work very hard. And then sometimes I feel like he can be actually a bit slower on the ball than sometimes people may imagine. Yes, he'll try to take on a guy and, touch it past you, but I just feel like he's just not, I don't know. Sometimes Mbappe for me can just be a bit frustrating certain games. And then as well, Dave, I was thinking about it. When Harry Kane plays these passes through in this team, who's going to be more clinical, Sonny or Mbappe? For me, Sonny is going to be more clinical. Mbappe more overpowered pace, so perhaps Harry Kane creates more chances with Mbappe. But I am thinking like Sonny's intelligence of runs and the runs that Sonny would make, like I would say would be just as intelligent as the ones that Mbappe would make. And then I would just think that Sonny would just be a whole lot more clinical than Mbappe. And sometimes for me, Dave, as you know, the way I play FIFA, not really a pace merchant. So I'm just like, I don't think I need more pace than already Sonny, has, in the team. And I don't know. Maybe just for me, Dave, it's just why Mbappe is just not really one of my favorite players. I think he can be extremely wasteful. I think there's so many chances I see the guy miss. I'm just like, geez, like, how is this guy considered one of the best in the world? Like, I think he makes the conversation, but sometimes I'm like, best player in the world doesn't miss these chances. I don't know, Dave. That's kind of my logic, is maybe not as good as a left winger as he is as a striker. And Sonny, for me, would actually score more goals with Harry Kane alongside him for me than maybe Mbappe would. And I know that's a hot take. I think maybe for me, it's a hotter take.
No, look, I think
better ball striker as well, Sonny. He actually strikes the ball, I think, better than Mbappe does too.
Yeah, no, look, I actually think everything you said there, it's actually a very, very valid point. Look, I just love Mbappe. I think his pace is so threatening. It's an unbelievable weapon. Look, sometimes I can get frustrated with Mbappe. It's kind of like sometimes his feet is too quick, moves quicker than what his brain can operate at. And I 100% I agree with you. I do think he can be frustrating. But I always have that option. Just put it over the top. Let him go. Just let him fly. With Son,
he's a cheat code. He's a cheat code. Absolutely. No, because Dave, actually, especially here's the thing. What's actually funny about Mbappe, right? I don't think people have noticed this, but when he plays for France and when he plays for PSG in the Champions League sometimes, and we've seen it before, they'll actually sit back really deep and they'll be without the ball. He's the
Yeah.
best player in the world if you are sitting deep without the ball, because all you have to do is just clear it. And then, who knows? A clearance might end up going his direction and, he just skins past the guy and then he's just in behind, or even, you get it into some players' feet, like a Harry Kane, like you said. Let's say in a counterattack, he makes the run, it's over. So I
Yeah.
do actually agree with you. He's the best player in the world if you're sitting deep.
But I am going to concede on this one because, look, with Mbappe, I just didn't want to leave him out, to be honest with you. I just think he is one of the world's best players.
Yeah,
Genuinely,
it feels
I do
wrong
believe
to
that.
leave him out.
But
Feels
so
wrong.
is Son. I mean, if Son was at PSG,
That was my thinking too, Dave.
people are talking about Son in a different bracket than what they're talking about him, than when he is with Tottenham. So I'm going
Same logic with Harry Kane for me, Dave. It was actually the same logic with Harry Kane for me. Was the other strikers, the best strikers in world football, bar Holland, you would say, Dave. They play in world class teams. I guess Holland, you would say, doesn't really either. Kind of like Harry Kane. But they all play in world class teams. And like someone even said, like Matt C says, Matt C says, when do you see the rest of the big strikers ping a pass from their own half into the opposing box? I think like with what Harry Kane has done with average footballers, we'll be honest, I think makes, him an unbelievable player. And I think it's the same thing for Sonny. What he has done with average footballers on a consistent basis, I think makes him actually extremely underrated. And maybe that's why we as Spurs fans kind of think that Harry Kane and Sonny are often extremely underrated, because what they're achieving, Dave, with actually quite average players alongside them compared to what the best players in the world do. The best players in the world, they have great players alongside them, where Sonny and Harry Kane don't actually.
No, 100% you're spot on. Look, if Son and Kane were in different teams, and rather than Tottenham, you'd be hearing about them every day of the week.
Yeah, I completely agree. Dave, maybe just quickly, to people who wanted Harry Kane, out of this team. Apparently, they wanted the best striker in the world out of this team.
I guess
or they wanted to play Bergwijn instead, ahead of the best.
I'll be honest with you. I just question whatever they say from now on. It's like, I get the emotional stuff behind it, but if you can't separate being emotional and being logical and realistic, that's where it annoys me. It's like, yes, I get Harry Kane hurt you, whatever else. But like, if you think he is the problem at Tottenham, or you thought he was the problem at Tottenham, and you thought he needed to be dropped for Bergwijn and all this, like, Jack, what would you say, footballista stuff? I just can't get down with it, and it's just absolutely madness. I mean, imagine wanting to sell genuinely the best striker in world football, but you even hear it with Son now. Is he world class? He's overrated. I mean, I've actually got a couple of stats that are going to bang that one out of the water tomorrow anyway, about him not playing well so lately and stuff like that. But look, it's just an example of the culture at Tottenham at the minute, where we seem to be blaming everybody that helps us. Kane, Son, Paratici. People want to make him a part of the problem. He's been here 6 months. The two guys we brought in, Bentancur, Kulusevski, people are already on their case before they've even come in here to help. People arguing whether Højbjerg is better than Winks when realistically you sit there and think about it, it's a pure no-brainer. Like, the people that are here to help people want to make a part of the problem purely because they can't separate their problem with the owners and other things at Tottenham. Like, with me, don't get me wrong, I want the owners out just as much as the next man. But at the end of the day, there's more to Tottenham than just these owners, and that's what I like to talk about. And for me, people just can't separate the two. It's like people want these players to be really bad or sold off and stuff just so that maybe we can get rid of these owners. And they can't deny it, because I have heard people actually say they would rather us get relegated if it meant we could get to Levy. And it just means that much to some of these people that I don't think they can differentiate, people that are here to help and world class compared to their problems
Yeah.
with the owners
That
and
means
stuff.
losing these world-class footballers then, Dave, as well, which I think would be, a sad shame, to be honest. Going back to, the left-wing conversation, Vinicius Jr. is being brought up by, I
Nowhere
think,
near
two
it.
or three people. I mean, does he sort of make the conversation, Dave, or is it kind of like we said before? I mean, it's that brutal that these guys just don't even make the conversation, no matter how good they are.
He doesn't make the conversation. I mean, Man is in there ahead of him. Mahrez is in there ahead of him. Sterling you could probably put in there ahead of him.
I know. I think Vinicius Jr. better than Sterling. I'll be honest. I think he is better than Sterling. Just because Sterling, is I think Dave maybe
Plus,
the
Vinicius
best
Jr. don't
best
even
sitter
get the
missed
last
of all
chance.
time. Best sitter missed of all time in Champions League. Olympique Lyon, against Man City.
Look,
Sterling once
don't
he
get me
missed that.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. I think Sterling is overrated, but he's in the conversation more than what Vinicius Jr. ever will be,
Wow. He's having a
especially
terrific
right
season
now.
alongside Benzema this season. He is having a terrific season alongside Benzema. We'll see. I mean, some people are saying Vinny Jr. I mean, I really like Vinicius Jr. Actually, I think he'll kind of replace Neymar as sort of like that Brazilian player that just seems to be untouchable. Dave, this season though, 13 goals in La Liga, 6 assists, Champions League, 2 goals, 3 assists. So he's having a ridiculous season. But maybe
Yeah, but with someone like that, like
he doesn't even get ahead of
he's got
these
to
two
have
though. He
stuff
doesn't even get
behind him
ahead
as
of these
well.
two for me though. He
Like you
doesn't even
also
get.
have to have a bit behind you. You also have to have what you've done in the game the last couple of years. You know what I mean? Can you go on and keep doing it? You look at these players, yes, they've done it. In the past, they're going to keep doing it. And right now, they still do it. Whereas Vinicius, he's only really coming to the fore this season. Does that put him in the world-class bracket? No.
Interesting, Dave. Interesting. I guess we'll move
See,
on.
look, it all comes down to depending on what people's definition of world class is. Mine is you've had to affect the game before we start talking about you. You also
Yeah,
have to be still affecting the game, and you have to have stuff behind you as well.
I'm with you.
Trophies, whatever it may be. Someone like a Vinicius Jr. Look, it was only so long ago that they wouldn't even pass him the ball at Real Madrid. Let's be fair about it. Yes, he's had a good season this season.
Yeah.
Does that make him world class? Does that put him in the conversation for the best 11 in the world? Nowhere near.
But Dave, in current form, like right now, like best players in the world, like Vinicius Jr. is looking like one of the best players in the world right now.
But Kulusevski has had 4 good games for Tottenham. Does that put him in the conversation?
Yeah, but I think I agree. Actually, agree with your logic, Dave. But I think that last statement, that is being a bit fair, unfair to him because he is looking good in the Champions League. He's just tearing boys apart. We also, Dave, as much as I think you probably loved, I think last season as well, we saw him, give Trent Alexander-Arnold nightmares. Last season, Trent Alexander-Arnold still.
Like, don't get me wrong. I think he's a very good player. I don't dislike the kid. I think he's a very good player, but
that's how brutal
he's
the
just
conversation
not at that level yet. He's just not at that level yet.
I think this is just how brutal this conversation is. It's just like, sorry, it just doesn't make the conversation, and I think that's what it really is at the end of the day. But I agree with you, Dave. Right wing, both gone for Salah. I don't really want to talk too much about it, Dave, to be fair. Like, I think it's just obvious. I think that's all we can say is obvious. Is there anyone else that even gets close, would you say?
Best player in world football right now.
Yeah, best player in world football. Yeah, to be honest.
I tell you though, Liverpool done well to get the next player to take over him, and that is Diaz. He's been quality.
I think Diaz has taken over for Mane, even as well, so it's good. It's good all around. It's good all around. Yeah, like David saying there, any other answer is wrong. I think that's true. Dave, maybe second best. What would you say? I've gone for, when I gave you my honorable mentions, I went for Gnabry as like a weird kind of like second best, because I was thinking again, Dave, like Gnabry in the best team in the world, I actually think would pop up with like 20 goals. Like the guy would just be an animal when it comes to like scoring, compared to maybe other right wingers would. But I don't know. Like it's tough to even come up with a second best.
Yeah, no, look, you've got Gnabry. Who else have you got? Let me think now.
Oyarzabal is looking great, actually at Sociedad. He could technically play out there. I'm trying to think.
Mahrez, you could probably put.
I think Mahrez is looking pretty spectacular. Looking pretty spectacular. Does Messi really get into the conversation anymore, Dave? I don't really think so, to be
Nah, I
honest.
think he's on the decline, to be honest with you. You can see
Yeah.
it. He's clearly on the decline.
I think he's the fact, guys, that he's not really tearing it up in Liga, says a lot. I think it really does, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think Messi, by no means, I don't think Messi's a bad player yet or anything yet. But I think the fact that he hasn't torn up Liga has said, Messi is definitely maybe not the player he used to be. Mahrez is a good shout. It's kind of tough because I feel like there are a lot of players just kind of on the same sort of level at right wing.
Kingsley Coman, does he enter the conversation at all?
I really like him, but I would rather have Gnabry than Kingsley Coman.
Yeah.
That's why we had that conversation, Dave. I think you would rather have Sane and Gnabry for the rest of Bayern's future than you would have
Coman.
Coman.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying Messi's always there. A lot of people just want to respect Messi. I mean, maybe in the best team in the world, Dave. Let's say best team in the world. Does Messi make the team better than like the second best options? You think like Gnabry would make the team better than Messi would?
See, I don't need a Messi in the team. Like with my team, it's not set up around one player. Everyone has their individual roles. You don't need.
That's true.
With Messi, you have
a
to
lot of standing around.
You have to sacrifice further back in the pitch. You know what I mean, to make up for the lack of defensive work that he does. So for me, look, he's not even at the top of his game anymore. To be fair, look, he's not the same player he was at Barcelona. Barcelona playing for Barcelona gave him extra superpower, was superhuman. He just doesn't have that love. I just don't think he has that love for it as much as he once did. As now at PSG. And for me, I don't think you could put him in the conversation this year. I really don't. Not even for Ballon d'Or. Nowhere near it.
Parma Goalkeeper went Mahrez, I think. Just trying to check. And Dtrex Kane went for, or no. Sorry, Parma Goalkeeper went Messi. Sorry, Dave. He went Messi for the best. And then Dtrex also went for Messi as the best. And then Dtrex also went for Bernardo Silva, as well as Parma Goalkeeper went for Bernardo Silva. Dave, does Bernardo Silva make the conversation? I think what Bernardo Silva is excellent at is just not losing the ball. I think the guy is ridiculous at not losing the ball. I think he has one of the best touches in the world. If I would actually say one of the best ball control sort of players in the world, he gets in there. But I don't know if he really makes this.
If you would have said Bernardo Silva to me, what was it? Well, there was one year he was banging in goals. I mean, he couldn't stop scoring. If you would have said to me, the Bernardo Silva of last year, maybe 3 years ago, yes. Now, not so much.
Does he make it over Messi for right wing?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
No? Okay. All right. Messi, a lot of people, it seems like they've almost defeated us on this one. A lot of people are saying Messi, I think, for second best. I don't think you can say anyone's better than Salah. I'm sorry, Parma.
Not more football right now, no way.
I don't think you could say Paro and Dtrex, that Messi.
You're lying to yourself.
Would rather have.
You're lying to yourself.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I really do. But just quick, shout out to Di Maria. I love it. Catman Jess. I would say Di Maria, he's never been respected as a guy that made PSG actually a lot better than they were. I think he always has made that team, he's I don't know, he's taken away a lot of their flaws. I feel like lots of times, Di Maria, I think an unbelievable player and somebody that will be definitely missed and maybe not respected enough, I'll be honest. But go quickly through the bench, Dave. These are our bench attackers. These are the two. We've gone everybody for 7 bench players. We went for 2 attackers, 2 central midfielders, a fullback and a center back and a goalkeeper. Dave, 2 attackers to bring on, to get you the goals. We've both gone for Haaland. I think it just makes sense.
Second best striker in our football.
And him alongside Kane would be absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
I think just him and Kane together would just be stupid. But you've gone for Sonny. I've gone for Neymar. Reason I've gone for Neymar, Dave, is I actually kind of hate Neymar. Like, I don't like him as a person. I think he's annoying, but like you just can't deny what he freaking does on a football pitch. Like that guy, Dave, like, especially when you see him get pressed, like, he's stupid. Like, the guy will touch a pass 4 or 5 players in pressing moments. Also with like 1-2s, he'll just dice through a whole team. it feels like even Dave, he uses players as almost like kind of like, almost as like human walls where he'll just like bounce it off players like a wall, kind of
Yeah.
thing. I just think Neymar, he just slices and he's almost like slithers through defenses. The guy is just stupid on the ball. Stupid.
Do you know what it is, right? Like you, Jack, I absolutely hate him as a person. But, like, as a footballer, he's wonderful to watch unless he's playing against your team. And if he's playing against your team, he's a cheater, he's this, he's that.
Yeah.
But look, the reality is the guy is so good on the ball.
Terrifying.
His feet
Like
are
terrifying.
so good. You just can't get near him. You can't take the ball off him very rarely. But look, what I will say is with Neymar throughout his whole career, I've just been left wanting more. Look, this is a guy that I was well aware of before he even came to Europe. I used to watch videos of what he was doing on YouTube,
the best
stuff
highlight
like
videos of all time of when he was ever at Santos.
But for me, I've just been left wanting more. Like, he's had the ability, like, especially from a younger age, to go on and do more than what the old Ronaldo done, to go on and do more than what Ronaldinho done. Has he? No, he hasn't. He has not. He's done nowhere near what them guys have done. Is nowhere near on the football pitch what them guys has done. And for me, he's always just left me wanting more. And look, the last 2 years, the reason why he hasn't made my team is because he's been out a lot with injuries.
Yeah, fair.
For a long period.
So I'd probably have 6 players on the bench. I'd probably have 6 players on the bench instead of 7.
Although I did want 3 attacking players, and Jack only told me 2, so I had to leave Neymar out.
Yeah.
But he was in there originally.
What do you, Dave, I actually don't really want to make the case for Neymar over Sonny. I think the only thing I would say is, like, if I just needed Dave, like some people say, like, let's say you're coming up against a low block team, you put Neymar in the middle, you're just like, that guy would just start, opening up a low block team. That was kind of my only thought process was I would just throw him on the pitch and all of a sudden, any sort of, defensive midfielder that's causing you problems, he just fixes it for you.
Oh, he does.
But I don't really want to make the case for him too much because, like I said, with you, Dave, I kind of hate the guy, so like, don't really, I just, you have to respect that.
Do you feel the same though, Jack, to what I was saying? Do you feel that throughout the whole career of Neymar, you've been left?
Oh, completely wasted. Career.
He should have done more.
Completely wasted career. I mean, everybody has said, and I think you couldn't, you'd be lying to yourself is when you watch Neymar, you're like, this guy easily could have been the best player in the world. Easily. I think, like, Dave, when you even watch Messi, with the way Messi manipulates the ball, the way that Messi is so calm under pressure, watch what Neymar does. It's like the Brazilian version of it. It's the same thing. It's like sees things in slow motion, absolutely destroys players, like destroys the best defenders in the world. I've seen Dave Neymar, especially when I've seen Bayern come up against, PSG. Every time Neymar gets the ball, you shit your pants. Because the guy just does something right away. Like he'll play a 1-2 past somebody. He'll flick it around somebody. He'll just do something that just is unplayable and unbeatable. And the way he touches the ball and manipulates the ball is similar to Messi. I actually think he just does it actually in a more exciting way than even Messi ever did in his career. Messi, the way Messi does it is kind of just robotic with the way that he just touches it past players, where Neymar does it like it's the streets, and everything. And it really is stupid. I think just Neymar is unplayable. And the fact that he is unplayable despite always being injured and despite not really ever even being up for it with his attitude and everything, I think, Dave, a huge waste of talent. He could have easily been one of the best players of all time.
I just think I fully agree with you about being one of the best players of all time. Easy could have. I just think, look, maybe going to Barcelona was the wrong move for me or for him. And hear me out. The reason why is
leaving Barcelona was. Was.
Look, he left Barcelona because he wanted to be the main man. But like this, my point is, I just think the reason why going to Barcelona, I think it was the wrong move for him, is because he never, like, if you're looking for someone to dig you out of games, or you're looking for someone to, like, be the main man, it was always going to be Messi. And I don't think Neymar has ever had to develop that where, if the team's losing, it's all on him, and that he can go and make something happen, because he's never really had to do that. It's always been Messi. I think that sort of drive, that determination, or even that the one that everyone is relying on to do something special. I think if he would have being at a different club from an earlier age, he would have developed that and probably would have went to kick on to be like that. Because
what if he had gone to PSG first? Like, just was a PSG kid, his whole life. Instead of
yeah,
making that big glamorous move, he made that first move to PSG kind of under the radar, and then all of a sudden turns into a world-class player from PSG. Would maybe his career have been different?
yeah, I do think his career would have been different if he went to another club rather than Barcelona. Because, like I said, with Neymar, I just feel he could affect games a lot more. I just feel that sometimes he just wants to take the easy option out sometimes rather than do the more difficult thing, like skin a player, crack a shot. And it's just kind of like the reason why I think he does that is because he's always had Messi to do it for him. Whereas if he was at a club and he would have had to have developed that, maybe a bit like Cristiano Ronaldo had to do it like a Man United, I just think he would have went on to them new heights, like Ronaldo, where you're kind of looking on somebody from a early age. He's the guy that can make something happen. And then because everyone's looking at you to do it, then you work harder, you go and do it. But because Neymar has always had Messi, has he had to work hard on certain things that would have brought that extra bit of drive or stuff like that? I don't believe so. Because Messi was always going to be the cop-out.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe like that's a theory I've never really heard before, David. I actually think it's spot on, and I think Cam and Jess agrees. Going
Look,
on here,
I'm not the best at explaining things, but what I mean is just that drive to be the one to make something happen.
No, like he never at Barcelona, he actually never was to a degree the face of the team and never was the best player in the team. And maybe if he had been, I don't know, like someone even makes the joke right here, Dave. I'm surprised Cody Gakpo isn't in here. But Dave, actually, to that point, Cody Gakpo, right, the best player in that PSV team by far. Let's say Neymar had that sort of situation, could have been a different career when you kind of think about it, because like he would have been looked at as like the guy that they rely on, the guy that digs them out of situations instead of just being the fancy sort of showboat out left wing. Yeah. He would have been the guy that actually gets them out of games. I think you're spot on. Spot on. Going on to we both included Haaland here, Dave, and Ishan Khan saying, I'm surprised no Lewandowski.
I said the same thing. I said the same thing to you last night, Jack.
Yeah, but we both gone Haaland, Dave, so I mean, why is it that you haven't done it either?
Yeah, but look, you're a massive Lewandowski fan. Like
I am a huge Lewandowski fan. I'm a huge Haaland fan too, though, Dave. I'm a huge Haaland fan too. I'm actually more of a Haaland fan than I even am of a Lewandowski fan, actually.
Oh, wow. I thought it was the other way around.
No, I'm a huge Thomas Müller fan. I'm a huge Thomas Müller fan. Thomas Müller is always my favorite player.
Another one I'm surprised you left out,
No, I mean, at the end of the day, Thomas doesn't make this team. I mean, Thomas, he and I have a special relationship. Surprised Jovic doesn't make this team either, actually, to be fair. Like I said, was the only guy to have destroyed Virgil van Dijk this year. But Lewandowski, here's my thing. With Lewandowski, I feel like Ishan, I think he's the best striker practically in the planet in terms of just scoring goals in a really good team. Sometimes he misses more sitters. If you actually watch Bayern enough, which I kind of do, he misses more sitters than actually you realize. I've seen him miss some pretty big howlers, Lewandowski, in my time period in watching Bayern. So sometimes I always just have that, like, despite him being one of the world's best, I just always kind of have that in my mind. Like, I've just seen him miss some pretty great chances, to be fair. Whereas, like, Haaland and Harry Kane and other players, like, not really as much, I would probably say, as Lewandowski. And that probably has to do with the fact that Lewandowski just gets 1,000 more chances than Harry Kane and maybe Haaland do. And that's why I've kind of gone for Haaland here. Better in the air.
If you put Harry Kane or Haaland into that Bayern Munich team, do they score more goals than Lewandowski?
Yeah, I think that's my thought. That was my logic as well. Is off the bench, I think Haaland would bring me more than Lewandowski would. I think that's all it was. Is off the bench, I think. If I brought on Lewandowski, it would be like, I don't know. This seems really disrespectful to Lewandowski, and so I can't believe I'm saying this, but Dave might know what I mean. I feel like it'd be like bringing on like a Cardi or something. It just kind of is like a flashy sort of like number 9, but actually doesn't tactically make a lot of sense because it's like Harry Kane and like Lewandowski together, it doesn't even really make very much sense. It's like they might actually play nice passes between each other, but they're kind of too similar. You would even almost say to a degree,
Mm,
or even the areas that they would want to pick up and like take up in the box would be too similar. So I was just thinking like Holland and Harry Kane together be better than Lewandowski and Harry Kane
yeah,
together. Maybe that's why the bench might not even include the best players in the world. It just includes better players off the bench. You could probably say. I think it's the argument.
yeah. No, spot on,
Yeah.
spot on.
Well, spend a while there on the attackers, so we can maybe move quickly through this. Welsh Gal's in the building. Good to see you, Welsh Gal. And then Catman just saying that is very true, David. I see that too with Neymar too, coddled as a youngster. Think spot on. I've gone for Donnarumma. Just shows how much I respect David's answer there. Dave's gone for Oblak, which I'm pretty sure Dave is aware though is not having a great season this season. Oblak, in fact, is looking like one of the worst goalkeepers statistically in Europe right now. Oblak is. But Dave, maybe just quickly, I don't need to talk really about why Donnarumma's here for
Yeah,
me, but maybe Oblak. Why is Oblak, maybe so high in
I
your
just
rating?
think he's been one of the most underrated keepers for years. To be honest
He
with you,
has. No, he has. I
um,
can't argue with that.
I actually just think he's a very good goalkeeper. Yeah, look, this season hasn't been the best, but look, every keeper goes through, a down period. But for me, I'll put him in there just simply because I like him. I think he's a no nonsense good goalkeeper, and I just think he's gone under the radar for years.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Dave. I can't argue with that at all. I really can't. I mean, to be honest, I really can't. Midfielders, this one will be kind of fun. We've both gone for Kimmich. I'm not surprised. I was really tied up between Kimmich and N'Golo Kante, Dave. I almost put Kimmich ahead of N'Golo Kante in my
Mm,
team. But I don't think maybe we can just talk quickly about why maybe Kimmich is the best. I think Dave Kimmich, when Philip Lahm retired at Bayern, everybody was so worried. Like, how do you replace Philip Lahm? All of a sudden, Kimmich just turns up, and it's like Philip Lahm's career all of a sudden is just kind of actually disrespected because
yeah,
the boots were filled so quickly. He can play as a right back, and to a degree, could be one of the best right backs in the world. Plays as center defensive mid, can be one of the best center defensive mids in the world. Could play as a center back, could be one of the best center backs in the world. To be honest, Dave Kimmich, you would say maybe kind of like Joao Cancelo, practically could play almost any position in the team, I would say.
not only that though, but Jack, he's a leader. He's
Yeah.
vocal,
Yeah.
as well, which I really
Even
like, and
look
he
at that
gets stuck
picture.
in as well, which I really like.
Yeah.
So for me, look,
That
like
celebration
you
looks like
said,
something
since he's
after he
come
gets
along,
stuck in.
yeah,
That
no,
celebration, Dave,
exactly,
looks
and
like after him getting stuck in. Yeah.
no, it does, and look, for me, it's a no-brainer. Like you said, Jack, you talk about my right back, he's in the conversation to get in the World 11. You talk about midfield, he's in the conversation to get in the World 11. So for me, that kind of says everything you need to know about this guy.
Definitely. A lot of people have mentioned, tonight, Dave, just going back to attackers quickly. And Kunku, I mean, I would say maybe in the next year, he could maybe make that team if he keeps up what he's doing. I'd say in the next year, he could maybe make, the
Mm,
World 11 or maybe the bench, but I don't think he makes it yet. I don't think so for me.
not yet, just a bit short,
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. That's just exactly again example of how brutal it is. Dave, you've gone for Paredes, which I can't wait for you to just have a little love moment with him. I've gone for Rodrigo de Paul, Dave, and maybe if you haven't seen this guy, maybe we're just gonna have to do a highlight reaction or something. But
I haven't
Rodrigo de
seen him.
Paul, Dave, Dave, we're gonna have to do the highlight reaction then of his Udinese, season. They bought him last season from Udinese, Dave, because basically he was the best midfielder in the world, last season with them. He comes into Atletico. Dave, I'll be honest, the best passer. You could make the argument at times that this guy threads passes through her even better than De Bruyne does. Not kidding. You could make that argument. The way this guy threads passes through, especially Dave, he does it on the floor every time, which is just absurd.
Mm,
He'll either do some no look or he'll do some sort of pass that, like, it could be a back five, a back seven, Dave, and this guy will pass it right through the lanes into somebody running in behind. I think Rodrigo de Paul is one of the sexiest passers in all of world football. I think he's just one of the best players in all of world football. Whenever I watch him, at least the way he plays, you're just like, this guy's just a baller. Dave. That's all I can say. It's just the reason he gets my team is if I needed somebody to just start threading passes through, kind of like Bruno Guimaraes sort of style, just be pinging passes left and right, just be playing all the passes nobody else can play. I mean, I put DePaul into my team, but I can tell, he's kind of under the radar. Not everybody knows about him, but I love Rodrigo DePaul. So it sounds like Dave, we're going to have to do a highlight reaction to him.
No, we definitely will. Definitely will. Look, for me,
Paredes.
I've gone with Leonardo Paredes.
Maybe the best shit house in world football. Yeah, the best
Well,
shit
look,
house in
that's
world
why I
football.
put him in, Jack, because to be honest with you, I wanted to put him into my team. But when it came down to Paredes and Goretzka, I just love Goretzka that bit more. But with Paredes, look, every team needs a player like him. They need his shithousery. They need how much he gets stuck in. Look, there
He
was
could
one
hold
game.
his own with these players. He could hold his own with these players as well. So
Oh, easily.
great
Easily.
passer still. Yeah.
No,
So
he's
I'm
still
with
a
you.
good passer on the ball. But look, there was one game in specific that I remember watching him in the Champions League, and he just shithoused the whole 90 minutes. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, this guy's going to get sent off. And he just doesn't. He just didn't, And to shithouse in modern day football is a very
Takes real
hard thing
effort.
to do.
Yeah.
This guy still finds a way of doing that. And I just believe every team needs a player like him, maybe not on the same level as the rest of your squad. Look, prime example, Jordan Henderson for Liverpool. You just need a player like him in and around the team, in and around the background, just silently plugging away, doing their thing. And look, he's the perfect player to bring off the bench if you just want to waste minutes. Perfect.
I agree with you, Dave. I think, there's got to be a shithouser that makes this team. So I might actually concede just for that reason. And I love Paredes as well. He's honestly one of my favorite players. And like I said to you, just to further your point, I think he actually holds his own with these players. Certainly wouldn't be the best, on the ball or
Yeah.
anything, but holds his own, though. It's not like it would be a significant drop off or not like he would stick out, I would say, or anything like that, in a team like this. So I'm kind of with you, Dave, to be honest. But kind of both, I would say, outside the box inclusions there. But center backs, we've gone for different ones here. De Ligt and Alaba. Dave, I've gone for David Alaba because, again, I've gone for you can tell I have a trend here. Someone that can play any position practically in the entire team. That's kind of why I gone for him here, Dave, because if I needed to form a back three, I could easily do that with Alaba. If I needed him to play center mid, I could have him play center mid. If I needed him to play left back, I could have him play left back. That's kind of why I've gone for him. Also can take free kicks, can take long shots as well. Can Dave, if you need, Vincent Kompany style, if you need someone to shoot it from long range, 90th minute, I mean, who knows? Alaba might pop off of the winner. I think he's a winner as well, the way that he plays. I think kind of similar to, how would I put it? He's kind of similar to Kimmich, I would say. Like, they're kind of both big winners. Like, they really do, get absolutely amped for the big games. I think they hold their own. Even that demolition, I've told you this before, Dave, at Barcelona. I mean, that own goal that he had, he actually was laughing at it because he felt so confident that they were going to win, that game. He's played in a defense, Dave, that's not easy to play for. Bayern, with how high that line is, you need to be a ridiculously good defender in order to look good. He's looked good in a Bayern defense for years, despite how risky, the way they play. Ridiculous striker of a football, unbelievably intelligent, doesn't need strength, can just outsmart a guy. I think David Alaba, sometimes I almost cried actually when he almost even left Bayern, because he's one of the players I kind of grew up watching that I thought was so ridiculous from the first time I ever watched him play.
No, look, I'm going to concede this one straight away. You win. I really like Alaba. Like you said, I've seen him play midfield for his country and left back for Bayern, both in the same seasons. He's unbelievable. He can play anywhere. Again, he can take free kicks. The ultimate player, Alaba, to be fair to him, he is the ultimate player. And no matter where you put him, you're going to get a solid performance. So I concede on that. I just love the lick. That's why I put him in there. I can't look past him. Just because
It's on Pound, though, saying Ruben Diaz and Romero are better than Alaba and De Ligt. I think Isan, all I say is sometimes maybe you don't watch Alaba maybe in the right ways. I could see what you're saying, but I think Alaba, the way he pings passes, the way he can just hold possession. Also, Dave, he kind of has a bit of that Kyle Walker recovery pace, sometimes as well. To a degree, he can, catch up with the player. But maybe let's go back to De Ligt. I mean, De Ligt, I think, makes this team in the next 2 years, I would say.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he's my one for the future, lad. The latest one for the future. Look, if you're talking about here and now, Alaba hands down all day. I really like Alaba. I, I'm a bit upset he went to Madrid. I just preferred him at Bayern, you know. At Bayern, I held him up here. Since he's gone to Madrid, I just kind of bring him down to a bit of a lower standard. I don't know why, because I actually don't mind Madrid. I prefer Madrid to Barcelona. But I don't know. I just thought I seen him maybe seeing out his days at Bayern for some reason.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Um, the other reason I kind of included him is because Real Madrid's defense all of a sudden have looked really good this season as well. You know,
Mm.
like he's made Militao look really good. All of a sudden, Militao finally looks like a good defender, and I think that has to do with David Alaba. And Real Madrid's defense even looked pretty solid. I actually thought against PSG. You know, despite how weird of a game that was, I actually thought they looked really
Mm.
solid. You know, thanks to David Alaba as well. So you know, he's making Real
Mm.
Madrid all of a sudden look really good, especially after the boots of Varane and Sergio Ramos leaving. You know, it hasn't really felt like they're gone over at Real Madrid. From what I've seen this season, hasn't really felt like Sergio Ramos and Varane really left because I think David Alaba has been that good going back
Mm.
into the team. He wants me to discuss his second choices. Everybody's going here for Cuti Romero, Dave, as well. Parma Gales Gilberto, his honorable mention was Cuti Romero and Alaba as well. I don't think Dtrex here gave me like a second choices, but could Cuti Romero, does he already make maybe, you know, the bench? Would he make the bench maybe, Dave?
Yeah, yeah, he definitely has the potential. Look, if I could pick two centre backs, I definitely would have put him in, fit him in there for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I think last one here, and again, I think we go really quickly. Trent, we've discussed it before, almost
Yeah,
made the starting 11 for it. I think just Dave, maybe all we can say is I think he makes a World 11. If a World 11 has a bench, he makes either the first team or he makes the bench.
yeah. No, 100%. Look, the reason why I picked him for my bench is because if I would have picked Hakimi, it would be the like for Kyle Walker. But, you know, at fullbacks, I like to have two different options, one better on the ball and one that's better defensively. So this guy, I can just bring him on and let him do his thing. He's unbelievable.
Mm, there you are. Well, everybody, that is the whole show. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in for this one.
That
A
was
bit
fun.
longer than we usually do it as well over here, but I just think we just had some riveting conversations about it. A lot that David and I had in common, which I'm probably not surprised, especially since I think we have a similar taste in players, you know,
Mm.
as well. Very, very interesting thoughts from the comments as well. I would say the one lesson that I took from this, Dave, was the fact that when you had these sort of conversations, you actually realize how brutal it is with some of the players that you leave out and some of the players that you're just like, just doesn't even make the conversation. The fact that we said that so many times with so many really good players says so much about what a World 11 actually looks like. And
Mm.
maybe even brings some sort of perspective to the world class, you know, kind of definition, because if a player doesn't even get close to a World 11 and a bench, are they really world class? Maybe you make that argument. I like to use it generously just because I think it's more fun that way. But Dave, maybe any takeaways, perhaps, you know, from this conversation?
Yeah, what I would say is there's class, then there's world class. If you're not in the World 11, you're not world class. If you don't
Mm,
make the World 11 squad, you're not world class. You're only class. That's what I
there you go.
take away. And look, definitely another discussion that we could probably take up sometime is maybe the Neymar discussion we had. I thought that was very good. I actually really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that, you know, and I think I'm also looking forward to the DePaul highlight video because Dave, honestly, one of the
Yes.
best highlight videos of last season, I'll be honest. But everybody that's joined in, Parl Miguel Escoberto, Rockstar 90, who's in here as well, Izhan Khan, Welsh Gal, David, really good to see David in here as well,
Yeah.
Catman Jess, plenty of others, Bottom Duda, of course, Matt C, G Mart, D-Trex Kane, everybody, every single one of you.
Legends.
Chris popped in, Dermot popped in, others popped in. Really do appreciate everybody just joining us. It's been a blast, been a really good conversation. Think I might do a version of this with Darius, but I think with Darius might do best Premier League 11 or something like that. I think that could be kind of interesting, or maybe best under 23s 11 or something like
That'd be
that
good.
in the world, something like that. I think things like that would be fun to do with Darius and other people. But hopefully you enjoyed this. I'm kind of thinking of doing this with other guests, not even just David, with other guests as well. I think it'd be kind of fun to talk about. But that'll be all for now. David and I think we'll be hitting you with the pre-match build-up tomorrow, pre-match pump-up, as well as the watch-along. The watch-along, everybody, is going to be looking nice and spiffy tomorrow. It's going to be looking absolutely fabulous. We're going to have a timer ready for you tomorrow so you can all sync up with us. It's going to look better than it ever has before. So do spread the word, everybody, that is going to be the watch along to be watching tomorrow.
Yeah, no, look, I can't wait. All credit to yourself and Nick for that, Jack. It should look good. And yeah, look, 4 p.m. tomorrow. Start with the pre-match build-up, and we'll take it from there. Let's go.
Alrighty. Well, that'll be all for now, everybody. Like always, on your way out, do hit that like button on your way out. Hit that subscribe if you've been new in here. I think I've seen a few new faces into this chat today. So do hit that subscribe as well. And do also, share this with anybody if you want to maybe have a bit of a World 11 conversation as well. But again, everybody, do really appreciate you all turning in. And David and I will be seeing you.